Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world overflowing with advice. Everyone tells you to work hard, network, wake up early, or stay positive. While these are valuable, today I want to go beyond the usual. I want to share with you 10 unconventional tips that have the power to radically shift the trajectory of your personal and professional life if you dare to try them. Let's begin. In a world obsessed with productivity, we've forgotten the power of doing nothing. We've been taught that boredom is a bad thing, that idle time is wasted time, that if you're not constantly doing, achieving, scrolling, or multitasking, you're falling behind. And so, every spare second becomes filled with digital noise, checking emails, scrolling feeds, replying to messages, watching videos. Silence makes us uncomfortable. Stillness feels wrong. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Boredom is not the enemy. It's the birthplace of brilliance. Let's take a step back and look at it differently. When was the last time you were truly bored? Not I have 5 minutes let me check Instagram bored. I mean genuinely disconnected, sitting in silence, no phone, no agenda, just being. Chances are, it's been a long time, but that state, that rare and raw experience of boredom, is where your mind finally exhales, and in that exhale lies hidden magic. You see, your brain isn't wired to be constantly stimulated. It needs space to think, wander, explore freely without constraint. When you allow boredom, you give your subconscious permission to surface, and that's when ideas begin to take shape. That's when you remember forgotten goals. That's when problems quietly unravel and answers appear without force. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history came during moments of boredom. Isaac Newton formulated the theory of gravity while aimlessly observing an apple fall during a plague lockdown. Albert Einstein developed his theory of relativity by visualizing thought experiments during long, silent walks. J.K. Rowling imagined the world of Harry Potter while delayed on a train with no pen, no phone, just her mind. These weren't moments of hustle. These were moments of pause, of slowness, of nothingness. We often talk about creativity and clarity as if they're lightning strikes, but they're not. They're often the soft voice that only speaks when everything else is quiet. And boredom is that quiet. So, how do you embrace it? Start by reclaiming small pockets of stillness. Leave your phone behind during a walk. Sit quietly for 10 minutes with no music, no agenda. Resist the urge to fill the gap with noise. Watch your thoughts arise and pass without judging or controlling them. In the beginning, it will feel strange, even frustrating. But over time, your brain will stop panicking and start creating. You'll notice deeper thoughts, sharper awareness, even a strange peace, because boredom isn't emptiness, it's incubation. In the stillness you once avoided, you'll discover a workshop where ideas are born, healing begins, and creativity awakens. What most call boring, the wise call sacred. Don't run from it. Lean into it. Let boredom become your teacher, because in that quiet space, your future self is waiting. We live in a world where talking is celebrated. Everyone wants to speak, be heard, give opinions, make their point. Social media rewards volume, not value. Podcasts, panels, meetings, everyone's speaking. But here's a rare truth. Real power often lies in those who speak less and observe more. Talking makes you feel in control. Observing, on the other hand, puts you in a position of learning. And while everyone is busy expressing, the silent observer is absorbing data, behavior, emotion, patterns. When you learn to observe deeply, you start to see the truth beneath the surface. You begin to understand what people mean, not just what they say. You notice subtle facial expressions, tone changes, and hesitation in their words. You sense who's confident and who's insecure. You see dynamics: who leads, who follows, who manipulates, who retreats. You begin to read the room in a way talkers simply cannot. This is what emotional intelligence looks like in action, not a buzzword, but a sharpened sensitivity. And it's developed not by dominating conversations, but by stepping back. Think about the greatest negotiators, leaders, therapists, coaches. They're not the loudest in the room. They're the ones asking the right questions and listening with intent. They let others reveal their truth while they quietly gather insight. Want to grow faster, lead better, and connect deeper? Here's how to start. In your next conversation, focus 70% on listening, 30% on speaking. Pay attention to what people say, but also how they say it. Watch for micro expressions: a glance, a pause, a shift in posture. Ask short, open-ended questions, then go quiet and let the silence do the heavy lifting. Train yourself to resist the urge to interrupt. Most people just want to be heard. Give them that. The more you observe, the more you learn about people, about business, about life. You'll start seeing things others miss: unspoken needs, hidden tensions, future risks, untapped opportunities. You'll develop an edge that can't be faked because it's rooted in real awareness. And here's the beauty of it: you become trustworthy. People feel safer around someone who listens more than they speak. You project calm confidence instead of performative energy. In a noisy world, your silence becomes powerfully magnetic. So talk less, observe more. Let the world reveal itself to you, not through noise, but through quiet perception. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Let me ask you something simple yet revealing. When was the last time you sat down, without distractions, just to think, not to respond, not to plan, not to react, but simply to think? We plan our meetings, we schedule our workouts, we block time for emails, errands, and phone calls. But somehow, we don't give ourselves time for the one activity that influences every area of our life: thinking. And that's where we lose the edge. In today's fast-paced world, we're constantly reacting to messages, demands, expectations, and noise. Our minds are pulled in 10 directions before we've even had coffee. And the result? We stay busy but become mentally scattered. We move fast but rarely move with purpose. That's why scheduling time to think isn't a luxury, it's a leadership habit. The most effective entrepreneurs, artists, and thinkers across history all had one thing in common. They created intentional space to think deeply. Bill Gates is famous for his Think Weeks at isolated time twice a year, where he reads, reflects, and explores ideas. Oprah Winfrey schedules time alone to evaluate her direction and realign her focus. Abraham Lincoln, before major decisions, would isolate himself for hours, not to ask others, but to ask himself. Because they knew this, clarity is not found in chaos. It's carved out in stillness. When you make time to think, you gain strategic clarity. You separate what matters from what's urgent. Emotional alignment. You understand your why beneath your actions. Creative flow. Your best ideas rise when your mind finally has space to breathe. Vision. You begin to think long term, not just survive the now. So how do you do it? Make it practical. Put it in your calendar like a non-negotiable meeting. Start with 30 minutes a week, a walk, a quiet room, or even your car parked in silence. Bring a pen and a notebook, not your phone. Ask powerful questions like, what am I avoiding? Where am I wasting energy? What am I doing that no longer serves me? What do I truly want to build this year? Then listen. Don't rush. Don't solve. Just think. Your brain is the most powerful tool you have, but it needs time to process, untangle, and create. Give it that time. Because when you think clearly, you act wisely. In a noisy world, the quiet thinker becomes the loudest leader. Let's get one thing straight. Taking a break does not mean you're falling behind. In fact, the fastest way to burn out, lose clarity, and sabotage your growth is to never stop moving. We glorify hustle. We idolize 60-hour days. We've created a culture where rest feels like weakness and slowing down is mistaken for laziness. But here's the truth that hyper-formers eventually learn, usually the hard way. You don't grow in motion. You grow in reflection. If you keep grinding without pause, you're not evolving, you're just repeating. And repetition without reflection leads to stagnation. Think of an athlete. They don't train 24/7. They train, rest, recover, then grow stronger. A writer doesn't write endlessly. They step away, get inspired, then return with deeper insight. A leader who never takes time off becomes reactive, not visionary. Pause is not procrastination. It's preparation. There are different kinds of pauses, and each one has power. Micro pauses daily. These are the 5-15-minute windows between chaos. A deep breath before a meeting. A silent morning coffee. A mindful walk after lunch. These tiny resets calm your nervous system and sharpen your mind. Mid-sized pauses weekly/monthly. Think of these as personal check-ins. A quiet weekend. A half-day digital detox. An afternoon journaling at the park. They help you zoom out, recalibrate, and make sure your ladder is still leaning against the right wall. Major pauses yearly or seasonally. These are game changers, a retreat, a sabbatical, time off from the grind. Not just to rest, but to review who you're becoming. This is where your biggest breakthroughs often happen, because you're finally still enough to hear what your soul has been trying to say. But taking a pause is not just about rest, it's about listening. When you step back from the noise, you start to hear what your intuition has been whispering, what your body has been trying to tell you, what your emotions have been holding onto, what your future is asking from you. Most people only pause when they're forced to after burnout, heartbreak, or crisis. But strategic pauses are different. They're chosen, intentional, built into your rhythm as a tool for growth. So here's your challenge. Don't wait until you break down to slow down. Schedule your pauses before life schedules them for you. Protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. And remember, some of your most important work will happen in the moments when you're doing nothing at all. Because the pause isn't the opposite of progress. It's where progress realigns itself. We live in a time of echo chambers. We follow people who think like us. We read books that confirm what we already believe. We join communities that reinforce our views. And we avoid conversations that challenge our opinions because it's more comfortable to be right than to be questioned. But here's an uncomfortable truth. You don't grow by being agreed with. You grow by being challenged. It's easy to talk to people who validate you. It feels good. It boosts your confidence. But real growth, that begins the moment you hear something that makes you uncomfortable, and instead of rejecting it, you stay open to understanding it. Now let's be clear. This isn't about changing your values. It's about expanding your perspective. When you engage with people you disagree with genuinely and respectfully, you begin to develop what very few people have today: intellectual humility. That rare ability to say, "I might be wrong. Let me listen." It doesn't mean you abandon your beliefs. It means you sharpen them with deeper awareness, stronger arguments, and more empathy. And sometimes, it even means you evolve. Think about it. A conservative learning from a liberal doesn't lose their identity, they gain a broader lens on the world. An atheist talking to a spiritual thinker doesn't betray their logic, they learn how others find meaning. An entrepreneur listening to a critic isn't weakening their ambition, they're seeing blind spots they couldn't see on their own. Every disagreement is an invitation not to debate, but to understand. When you start practicing this, something powerful happens. You become calmer in conversations, not reactive. You learn to see complexity, not just sides. You develop emotional resilience because you're not afraid of different ideas. You become a bridge in a world full of walls. So how do you begin? Start by listening longer before responding. Ask what led you to that view. Instead of how can I prove you wrong, read a book, article, or blog from someone whose views make you uncomfortable and finish it. Sit with someone from a different background, culture, generation, or belief, and ask to hear their story. You don't have to agree. You don't even have to change your mind. But if you walk away with more understanding and less judgment, you've grown. Because the most dangerous thing you can do on your path of personal or professional development is only surround yourself with people who think exactly like you. Disagreement isn't division, it's an opportunity. And those brave enough to learn from it rise above the rest. Let's get honest. How many times have you delayed starting something because you didn't feel ready? That business idea, that new skill, that life-changing move, that one conversation that could open a door. And every time you told yourself, not yet. Let me learn more first. Let me get better. Let me be more confident. But what if I told you that feeling ready is a myth? That no matter how much you prepare, how many books you read, how many hours you plan, there will always be uncertainty? There will always be fear. There will always be a voice in your head whispering, what if I fail? Here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come first. Action does. You don't wait to feel ready. You start scared, uncertain, imperfect, and you build confidence through the doing. Look at every successful person you admire. None of them began with full certainty. They began with courage. Courage to step forward while afraid. Courage to launch that podcast with no listeners. Courage to speak even when their voice trembled. Courage to take the first step with no guarantees. You see, fear isn't the enemy of growth, it's the signal you're on the edge of it. And when you start before you're ready, you accelerate learning because experience is the best teacher. You break the loop of overthinking and replace it with motion. You discover strengths you didn't know you had because they only appear in action. You stop waiting for permission and start creating opportunities. Let me share a powerful shift in mindset. Imperfect action will always beat perfect intention. That blog you never wrote because you didn't feel like a real writer. Someone else wrote theirs and they got better with every post. That video you didn't record because you felt awkward on camera. Someone else showed up awkwardly, and now they've found their voice. That business you've been dreaming of starting for 3 years. Someone else launched theirs last year, and they're now thriving because they were willing to begin badly. Starting doesn't require certainty, it requires commitment. So, don't wait for the fear to go away. Don't wait for the perfect time, it doesn't exist. Don't wait until you've mastered everything. Mastery comes from the journey. Start the blog, start the conversation, start the side hustle, start the healing. Start the life you keep postponing, because the longer you wait to feel ready, the more your dreams become distant memories. But when you start, even in fear, even in doubt, you move closer, one small, brave, imperfect step at a time. You've probably spent years building your resume, a list of achievements, degrees, job titles, and accomplishments. It's the polished version of your story, the one you show the world. But what about the other version? The one nobody talks about. The version filled with rejection emails, missed opportunities, embarrassing setbacks, and bold attempts that didn't work out. Let me introduce a radically honest and powerful tool, your failure resume. Yes, a list not of what went right, but of everything that went wrong. The job you didn't get, the business that failed, the relationship that ended, the speech you bombed, the idea that fell flat, the goal you chased and lost. Now, why would anyone do that? Because every failure is a teacher. Every setback is a hidden story of resilience. And every scar carries a lesson that shaped who you are today. But here's the catch. Most people bury their failures in shame. They pretend they never happened. They avoid talking about them. And in doing so, they also bury the growth, the grit, and the wisdom that came with them. A failure resume flips that narrative. It tells the truth. It honors the process. It turns wounds into wisdom. Think about this. That startup that didn't work. It taught you resourcefulness. That rejection letter from your dream job. It redirected you to something better. That painful ending. It woke you up to your worth. That public mistake. It built your humility and self-awareness. And here's what's even more powerful. When you write your failure resume, you realize something extraordinary. You survived. You kept going. You didn't give up. That's not weakness, that's strength in its most honest form. So here's what you can do. 1. Start writing it down. Don't sugarcoat it. Be raw, be real. 2. Next to each failure, write what it taught you. What skill, mindset, or insight did you gain? 3. Look for patterns. Are there themes in the risks you took? In the lessons you learned? 4. Celebrate it. Yes, celebrate your failure resume, because it's a mirror of your courage, not your defeat. Some of the world's most impactful people, Oprah, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely, Steve Jobs, all have epic failure resumes. What made them great wasn't just their wins. It was what they learned from the losses. Success might impress people, but your failures and your honesty about them connect people, inspire people, heal people, because someone out there isn't moved by your highlight reel, they're moved by your humanity. So don't hide your failures, frame them, study them, honor them, because they didn't stop you, they shaped you. When we were kids, curiosity was our default. We asked why. 100 times a day. We touched things, explored everything, imagined endlessly. No fear of judgment. No fear of being wrong. But somewhere along the way in classrooms, boardrooms, and social rooms, we were trained to stop asking. To stop wondering, to stop looking beneath the surface. We were told, don't question too much. Stick to the script. That's not your lane, be realistic. And so, curiosity got replaced by conformity. But here's the secret. Curiosity is not a distraction, it's a compass. It leads you to breakthroughs. It's what keeps your career evolving, your relationships deepening, your ideas expanding. Curiosity is growth energy, and those who remain curious never stay stuck for long. Some of the most successful people in the world credit curiosity as their fuel. Elon Musk taught himself rocket science through obsessive curiosity. Steve Jobs dropped in on a calligraphy class out of curiosity, and years later, that influenced the Mac's iconic typography. Marie Curie's curiosity about invisible rays changed the world of science and medicine. Their success didn't begin with knowledge. It began with a question. So why does this matter for you? Because the moment you stop being curious about your work, your partner, your world, or even yourself, you stop evolving. You begin to operate from habit, not discovery, from assumption, not insight. Curiosity does 3 powerful things. -1. It unlocks creativity when you're curious. You explore weird ideas. You connect unrelated dots. You stumble upon unconventional solutions. You ask, what if, and why not? And suddenly, you're innovating where others are imitating. -2. It builds relationships, asking thoughtful questions, truly wanting to understand someone. This creates connection. People feel seen, valued, understood. Curiosity is how we show empathy without assumption. -3. It makes you lifelong employable in a world where skills expire fast. Curiosity keeps you relevant. If you stay hungry to learn, explore, and adapt, you'll never be obsolete. Curious people don't wait to be taught, they teach themselves. So, how do you activate unapologetic curiosity? Read books outside your comfort zone. Ask questions in meetings others are too afraid to ask. Try a new hobby, not for productivity, but for play. Travel not just to relax, but to see differently. Spend time with people outside your industry, your background, your generation. Listen to podcasts or documentaries that have nothing to do with your current job. And most importantly, don't apologize for wanting to know more. Be the one who raises their hand, who Googles everything, who reads deep, who says, "I don't know, but I want to find out." Because your next breakthrough in your career, your business, your inner world is likely hidden behind a question you haven't dared to ask yet. So bring that childlike spark back. Be why, died again. Be fascinated, be bold enough to wonder, because the curious don't just survive the world, they reinvent it. Let me start with this: you don't need to do everything, you just need to do the right things. In our pursuit of success, we often think that saying yes is how we grow: more meetings, more projects, more collaborations, more favors, more opportunities. But here's what people don't talk about enough. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And far too often, what gets sacrificed is your energy, your time, your focus, your peace, the very resources that fuel personal and professional growth. You're not overwhelmed because you're weak. You're overwhelmed because you've said yes too many times. Most people don't need more time, they need fewer commitments. They don't need more motivation, they need clearer boundaries. Saying no is not about being selfish or rude. It's about being strategic. It's choosing to protect your highest priorities over your deepest fears. Fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of looking unhelpful. But here's the shift. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's choosing alignment over approval. Think about the most successful people you know. The ones with clarity, focus, results. They have something in common. They're not afraid to say no. No to distractions. No to energy, draining people. No to maybe opportunities. No to anything that doesn't align with their mission. You don't rise by pleasing everyone. You rise by protecting your path. So how do you start saying no more powerfully? -1. Know what you're saying yes to. Every no becomes easier when you're clear on your bigger yes. If your yes is building your business, your family, your health, then your no to late night scrolling, pointless meetings, or toxic relationships becomes non-negotiable. -2. Respond with grace, not guilt. Saying no doesn't require a long apology. You don't owe an essay. You can be firm and kind. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm fully committed right now. This doesn't align with where I'm focusing my energy. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass this time. -3. Practice it often. Start small. Say no to the next thing that feels off. Watch how you free up energy. Watch how the world doesn't fall apart. And then build the muscle. -4. Don't over-explain. When you over-explain, you open the door to negotiation. Let your no stand. A clear boundary is a sign of self-respect, and others will begin to respect it too. Remember, you don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't need to apologize for prioritizing your peace. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what drives you. You reclaim time, protect focus, and gain momentum. And in a world of overcommitment, your ability to say no becomes your secret weapon, because the most successful people aren't doing more. They're doing less, but with laser focus. Let me start with this. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things. In our pursuit of success, we often think that saying yes is how we grow: more meetings, more projects, more collaborations, more favors, more opportunities. But here's what people don't talk about enough. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And far too often, what gets sacrificed is your energy, your time, your focus, your peace, the very resources that fuel personal and professional growth. You're not overwhelmed because you're weak. You're overwhelmed because you've said yes too many times. Most people don't need more time, they need fewer commitments. They don't need more motivation, they need clearer boundaries. Saying no is not about being selfish or rude. It's about being strategic. It's choosing to protect your highest priorities over your deepest fears. Fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of looking unhelpful. But here's the shift. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's choosing alignment over approval. Think about the most successful people you know. The ones with clarity, focus, results. They have something in common. They're not afraid to say no. No to distractions. No to energy draining people. No to maybe opportunities. No to anything that doesn't align with their mission. You don't rise by pleasing everyone. You rise by protecting your path. So how do you start saying no more powerfully? -1. Know what you're saying yes to. Every no becomes easier when you're clear on your bigger yes. If your yes is building your business, your family, your health, then your no to late night scrolling, pointless meetings, or toxic relationships becomes non-negotiable. -2. Respond with grace, not guilt. Saying no doesn't require a long apology. You don't owe an essay. You can be firm and kind. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm fully committed right now. This doesn't align with where I'm focusing my energy. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass this time. -3. Practice it often. Start small. Say no to the next thing that feels off. Watch how you free up energy. Watch how the world doesn't fall apart, and then build the muscle. -4. Don't over-explain. When you over-explain, you open the door to negotiation. Let your no stand. A clear boundary is a sign of self-respect, and others will begin to respect it too. Remember, you don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't need to apologize for prioritizing your peace. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what drives you. You reclaim time, protect focus, and gain momentum. And in a world of overcommitment, your ability to say no becomes your secret weapon. Because the most successful people aren't doing more. They're doing less but with laser focus. Who wrote the rules you live by? Seriously pause and ask yourself, the way you work, the way you think success should look, the way you think a relationship should feel, the age you believe you must have it all figured out by, the career path you feel obligated to follow. Where did those rules come from? Chances are most of them weren't written by you. They were passed down by culture, family, school, social media, or tradition. And you inherited them without question, like software running quietly in the background, shaping every decision you make. But here's the truth. You are allowed to challenge every single rule that no longer serves you. Success doesn't have to mean a corner office. Fulfillment doesn't have to look like a white picket fence. Leadership doesn't have to be loud. Work doesn't have to be a grind. You don't have to wait until you're 40 to feel wise or follow a perfect path to be valid. You get to write your own version of the story. Some of the most extraordinary people in history and today broke the rules. Oprah redefined what a talk show could be. Elon Musk disrupted the car and space industries without following traditional models. Malala Yousafzai challenged the rule that said young girls should stay silent. Steve Jobs famously said, "Think different, not better, not faster, but different." Because the people who create the future are the ones brave enough to say, "This rule doesn't work for me anymore, so I'm making a new one." And here's the twist. When you rewrite your own rules, people may resist. They may not understand you. They may say, "Who do you think you are?" But that's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to follow someone else's blueprint. Your job is to create a life that feels right in your soul. not just on your resume. So here's what it means to rewrite the rules. If you're a night owl, build your routine around that. If you're an introvert, lead quietly, not by pretending to be loud. If you want to take a gap year at 30, do it without guilt. If you want to start over in a new city, a new industry, or a new identity, go for it. If normal feels suffocating, trust that instinct. Rewrite the rules for how you define productivity, success, rest, wealth, love, and even joy. Because your life isn't meant to be a copy and paste version of someone else's. It's meant to be a masterpiece written in your own handwriting. And no, it won't be perfect. It might not even be fully understood. But it will be yours, and that makes it powerful beyond measure.